Hi, everyone. Welcome to The New Normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Today, we are continuing a series on longevity with Dr. Reg McDaniel from New Eden. So, you guys, please check out the information that I have linked below in the description where you can order your subscription of New Eden and also find out a little more about the product. I'll be right back right after this with more information from Dr. Reg McDaniel.
Series on longevity, and particularly longevity combined with quality of life. As a brief review, we started out with an article by the head of a research group in Tokyo, Japan, Dr. Katani, that after World War II, they discovered that the islands of Japan that are called Okinawa had the population living about 10 years longer than in the mainland, and they published this paper that we went through. This was followed by that people on Okinawa decided they were very important people. So in the weekly publication, Epic Times, it points out that they established a foundation on the Okinawan Islands just to study why they have longevity there. And one of the most important things they found out is that the first researchers just assumed that the Okinawans ate rice as thoroughly or completely as the mainland. But one of the first things they found out is that sweet potatoes made up 67% of the volume of their diets, and that this had changed greatly. And then we had a series that this was picked up by National Geographic, because the World Health Organization has studied across the countries and found 5 what they call blue zones, where the population characteristically lives up to 10 or 15 years longer average than other countries. And this was followed by another article by National Geographic just on living longer and better, which we went into the details of the characteristics of the population in the blue zones. And then Life Extensions magazine had this article on William Shatner on television, who's 91 and is very active. And he shared his quote, secrets of longevity. And we found out that in all of these areas, there is an ancient recognized factor, that it's diet and exercise. In fact, the father of Western medicine that's credited to Hippocrates, if you go on Google, you can search, and that he said before our calendar started, if we could provide to the patient the proper or optimal diet and exercise, not too much, not too little, we'd have found the safest pathway to good health. And then he wrote underneath this, let your food be your medicine and your medicine your food. Well, those 2 points are a common factor in all these blue zones. And importantly, in the blue zones, rather than going to a gymnasium, which we have to do in population centers, they tend to be farmers and fishermen, and they get their exercise in their daily activity. But they had the characteristics of a high fruit and vegetable intake, in very low meat intake, frequently no more than 1 day a week, or festivals. And they had, in addition, activity of their brain and interaction within the community and with their family, and a purpose in life, which I say is very important, as to add to the common denominator of the principles of the diet and exercise. So there is currently an awful lot of interest in longevity and quality of life while aging. And I was thinking about the history of North America, North, Central, and South America, that the Spanish and Portuguese came over, and they were those explorers that looked for gold and silver and wanted to take it back to Spain and Portugal. However, Ponte de Leon went to Florida looking for the fountain of youth. And this is something that human beings for endless generations have been interested in, not only good years, but having quality of life. And is there any biochemistry that we can find out, that you can study objectively, that can give some measurement of whatever you're doing, is it effective? And so for this last lecture, which I give as a justification, it's 100% of the population is going to be involved in aging, and probably 100% if they're going to age, they want to have quality of life. Who wants to be in bed, somebody having to help them, or maybe on a breathing machine or something? What you want is quality of life. And is there any measurement? And so this lecture is going to be on telomeres. And so with that, we will go to the PowerPoint presentation. This is the first slide that we have been using in this series on longevity and quality of life. And it emphasizes that the World Health Organization, which is a division of the United Nations, has surveyed approximately 100 countries and found what they call blue zones, where people live in good health up to their 90th decade. And interesting enough, the very first group that we covered, which was in the Okinawan Islands, they, at the time of this was recorded, they have a lady that's 114 years of age. They found out they had people in their high 90s that were living independently and very active in their communities. And we mentioned in the introduction the commonalities that they found out, but in these blue zones, they have more people living to 100 per 100,000 population than anywhere else. And a very characteristic of that, the blue zone, is that I believe 3 of those blue zones were islands that are isolated from the main population centers. And of course, in the main population centers, you have the commercialization of food supply, of French fried franchise, fast food, which in these areas you find out over and over again is contrary to longevity and quality of life. We will go to the next slide. And in 1933, a researcher by name McClintock discovered little caps on the end of all the chromosomes, of the 46 chromosomes, a little cap that was called a telomere. And it's, we will tell what it's made of here in a minute. It's chains of DNA on the end of the chromosomes. Then in 2009, Blackburn, Girder, and Solascat, or whatever the name is, got a Nobel Prize for showing that these little caps called telomeres protected the chromosome from free radicals and oxidation and from mutation. And that there was an enzyme that is active, made by the body from nutrients, that lengthens the telomeres, which otherwise shorten every time there is a cell division. The telomeres get shorter. And we'll point out the importance of that in a minute. But I would like to point out before we go further that these individuals, I purposely didn't put their first name because they are all females. And that, I think, is significant in terms of the big picture of science and analyzing populations. That for decades, females weren't even admitted to medical school or graduate programs. And now they are able to go there, and they're very productive. And in fact, one of the hot areas in research right now is the CRISPR technology that was recognized by a woman researcher. So the telomeres and the CRISPR genetic editing and improvements that is such a hot area of research, all done by 4 female researchers. Now, this is an artist concept of what they can see under the electron microscope. And on the 46 chromosomes, we have them there. There's a pair of them. It's 23 pairs, but individually they have a matching chromosome. And if you'll notice, the one on the left is a short little end on it, looks fuzzy. And the one on the right is a long telomere. And this is important, as we'll point out. Also, this is a artist's conception of what the telomere does. In the left of this picture, you see it looks like kind of like popcorn all over the chromosomes or the nucleic acids, and this protects them. Over on the right, you see what happens with aging as the telomeres get shorter and the chromosomes are exposed to chemicals and radicals and radiation, which fosters aging problems. That the shorter the telomere, the less longevity and quality of life. So this is the protection of the chromosomes offered by the telomeres. Now, this is just to point out that each time a cell divides, you can see down at the bottom of the cartoon, the telomeres get a little shorter, and that children have the longest telomeres in infants, and the elderly have the shortest telomeres if it's just regular biological aging, and you're not following some of the key important things that we've discovered in the blue zones that the World Health Organization found. As we pointed out, that children have longer telomeres, and as they more and more cell divisions, that the telomeres get shorter unless you're doing something to activate the telomerase, which the Nobel Prize was given for, that lengthens them. And this protects the nucleic acids that are in the chromosomes, or the genes, from the activity of the mitochondria that generate free radicals and nascent oxygen molecules that are very reactive. And this keeps, because the molecules that are in the genes carry information. If any radical attaches or oxygen attaches, it alters the information in this. And it points out that the telomeres are made of repeating sequences of, and it says TTAGGG on one strand, and it's paired with AATCCC on the other strand, which is called complementary banding. In our genes, where there is a T, it attaches to an A, and anytime there's a G, it attaches with a C. That's called complementary binding. And they point out that these little fuzzy things that look like a cap on the end of the chromosomes, that you'll have 8,000 pairs of these in a newborn. And by the time you're an adult, you have about 3,000. And as you get to be elderly, it's around 1,500 of these thing. And these are what we were just talking about there, that the A stands for adenine, and it always pairs with guanine, the G, and the thymidine and the cytidine. And that these are the molecules that are on the end. And if you'll notice, they're only made up of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, which I think is a interesting aspect of the key molecules or elements that are in the composition of matter chart that make up the language or the code of DNA. I have pointed out, I think previously, that if you have some kind of success, as we did with research on the Aloe at Carrington Laboratories, people think you know a whole lot more than you really do. And over in Dallas, my office is located between Dallas and Fort Worth. In Dallas, they have researchers trying to develop hardware and software for computers and cell phones we'll have 10, 15 years from now. And time again, they have come and spent up to a half a day wanting to know how nature has used this code made of these 4 nucleic acids that carry out this. This is a code written in these molecules that is more than double, maybe 10 times or more powerful to carry information than the current code that is used in computers and cell phones. So they want to know how this is done in nature and how it's done in the cells. And of course, I don't have the answer to that any more than I have the answer to how all of this incredible coding came into being. I can tell you it didn't come from just a bunch of molecules getting excited and deciding to get organized, that there is a creative organizing and designing power in the universe that is responsible for this. And there's no denial when you look at this code that something that we don't have the answer to is going on to be the source of plant and animal life. Now, some basic knowledge about telomeres, that long telomeres are found in individuals and families that tend to live to 90 to 100 years of age or longer. And I have an asterisk there that the title that backs this up was in the Journal of Gerontology. It was entitled Association of Longer Telomeres with Better Health in Centenarians. In other words, people that are 100 and in good health have long telomeres. Also, long telomeres are found in animals with long lifespans. Unfortunately, short telomeres are found in families that tend to die, say, in the window of about 55 to 70 years of age from the chronic diseases of elderly. And they have short telomeres. Also, there's short telomeres in animal species that have short lifespans. One of the things that is characteristic of the blue zones identified by the World Health Organization is that when they've assayed them, that these individuals in the blue zones have longer telomeres and they have better quality of life, which I think is something that everyone wants to have. Now, this is a paper, the title, Association of Longer Telomeres with Better Health in Centenarians. And in dark blue there, it points out that telomere length was measured by quantitative polymerase chain reaction in 38 individuals that ranged in age from 97 to 108. And in this 108, there were some super healthy centenarians that numbered 19. And I will share you some of the information that is in this paper. There were 38 individuals that were over 100. And in those 38, if you'll see on the left, there were a group that were very healthy, and there were some in this group of over 100 that were not all that healthy. They measured their telomeres, and of the healthy ones, they averaged 4,700 of those little DNA caps on the ends of them, whereas the unhealthy ones were only about 3,500. This was really not expected, and as they say that not only is the telomeres at the bottom of the page you can see associated with longer life, but the longer the telomeres, the quality of life is improved, and the diseases associated with advanced age are very low or not present. And the little square boxes give you the full range of the lowest to the highest of those in the healthy group and those in the unhealthy group. And this was something that was new information. Not only did the telomeres links influence longevity, but are also active in quality of life as you age. And this is the same abstract we just saw, but it ends with this conclusion that's in the heavy type, that this raises the possibility that perhaps it is not only exceptional longevity of one's function of health, it may be associated with good health with telomere length. Now, what is the general ideas of telomere research and current status? Well, the telomeres are considered to be an onboard monitoring device about how old you are biochemically and physiologically, not by your calendar, but the things that influence the telomeres are exercise, eat foods that lengthen telomeres. We'll get into a little more detail on that. You avoid foods that shorten telomeres, and that's your French fried franchise type food. You look for things that boost the enzyme that are natural, that lengthens telomeres. They find out that stress, emotional and physical stress, is important in telomere lengths. They find out that your mental activity and whether you're stressed or live in a state of anxiety and pressure, and that practicing meditation is good. And you should avoid toxins in the environment. And if you're still trying to search, well, what does telomere mean? Telomeres are caps on the ends of the chromosome strands that protect your DNA, the 4 nucleic acids I showed you, from unraveling or fraying or mutations or any radicals from attaching to them. They're protected. Now, these are things that come from a PubMed survey of titles that to increase telomere length is regular exercise. and walking at least 3 miles 3 times a week is considered at this point to be a minimally adequate exercise. But in the blue zones, the important thing that people didn't go out and go to gyms or walk distances, that they were active in their areas of sheep herding or farming or fishing. Also in the diet, folic acid increases telomere length, and testosterone increases it. And in mushrooms, there is a compound called L-ergothioneine, which is used in the synthesis of superoxide dismutase, which is part of the intracellular system to quench or to inactivate free radicals and nascent oxygen. The free radicals primarily coming from the mitochondria as they make ATP, but lo and behold, you can have special kind of microscopes to show that there's a little cloud of glutathione and superoxide dismutase in the cell right around the mitochondria to grab up these free radicals so that they do not attach to the chromosomes and alter the information there. Another thing that has been found that lengthens telomeres, and it's been advocated for nearly 20 years by Life Extension's Foundation, is finasteride. Meant to remove that in the parentheses. Telomere lengths are extended by meditation and rest and prayer, and apparently singing in groups also helps this. It is an interaction with other people, and other healthy lifestyles and habits are good for your telomeres. Now, things you'd like to avoid, and before we go even in further into these, that these were found to be in the blue zones by the World Health Organization to add to why the populations there had a longer life and better health. Well, you want to avoid the things that decrease telomere length is that every cell division, and of course, all the cells in the body have a polyadenate tail to tell how long they're supposed to last, and they're recycled. That's called apoptosis. And every time a cell divides, the telomere will shorten unless there's something that's affecting telomerase, the enzyme that restores it. Depression and stress are very negative for telomere length. High altitudes, sleep apnea, and having malignancies, poor lifestyles and habits, drinking excessively, long hours without any breaks. They're just a poor lifestyle shortens your telomeres. Smoking and contamination from hydrocarbons, the solvents from the petroleum industry, are not good for telomeres. And of course, obesity is not conducive to good health and longevity. And that gets to be a pretty serious condition, because it's considered that over half the population in the United States suffers from obesity. Now, because of this telomere subject, Wellness Quest, with its key more comprehensive nutrition called New Eden, which has been developed slowly over the last 36 years, starting with the acetylated mannose that was found to be the active ingredient in aloe leaf gel, which was the reason that it's been used in history of human beings for over 5,000 years. Carrington Laboratories raised $20 million to try to find out what is in aloe leaf gel that does this, and it was found to be acetylated mannose, a sugar that is utilized in cellular synthesis. And for short, it's called Acemannan. Now, this little study that's going on slowly because we don't have a grant, the subjects have to be male or female over 50 years of age, and they have been taking the acetylated mannose or aloe acemannan formulation for at least 12 months. And Wellness Quest doesn't have the sole acemannan source, but any source that you've been taking aloe acemannan for at least 12 months and you're over 50 qualifies a person. We want to know the average intake day estimate, and what is required is we have kits that issued by a laboratory that does the telomere assay in Houston, Texas, and it's a citrated vacutainer tube that keeps the blood from coagulating so that they can get white cells and measure their telomeres. In addition, we have a complete review of systems of the health status. It goes through all the organ systems. What is your health history there? Do you have anything in the past or current that you can mark? We have a form for the family ancestor longevity record. And we want to know when the aloe acemannan was started, the average amount consumed. The preliminary telomerase results, we're probably a third to halfway through the study. Example, there's an 86-year-old male that had been taking the aloe acemannan for a number of years, and his telomere value is 45 to 55, and of course that male there is talking to you right now. So there are many individuals that just by appearance and activity think that I am functioning at a level much younger, and in fact my telomeres are that you would expect in an aging group of 45 to 50 years, 5 years of age. We have an 80-year-old male who was a special forces in the military, jumping out of airplanes and swimming across the English Channel as part of an exercise program. And he had been taking the aloe acemannan for more than a year, and his got some better results there. His lengths were 25 to 35 years old, just like by empiric observation. Hippocrates said that it's diet and exercise are so important, and of course exercise is important in this person. And then we have a male that's 57 years old, and he has participated in Ironman competitions and does triathlon several times a year. And so every week he's doing bicycling and running, and then at times swimming. And so that's a much more intense current, pardon me, exercise, as well as a healthy diet. And his telomeres were that of a 15 to 25-year-old. You can see the history and the activities of the individuals that are in that area that the World Health Organization identified blue zone population. Then we have a 74-year-old male that does daily walks with his dog about twice a day, and his telomeres are 10 to 20 range. We have a 74-year-old male that had bipolar problems and is irregular about taking the Aloe Acemannan, and his were in the range of 30 to 40. So he didn't have as intense, and to my knowledge, he has no significant exercise. Then we have a male that's 54. And if you'll notice, his telomere range was 5 to 10 years of age. Well, I investigated this 54-year-old, and he's on the faculty at University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. One, he is not a vegetarian, but a vegan. And that is a very strict individual with his diet. He also is a competition bodybuilder and has photographs and trophies for his muscle development and configuration in competition. Also, he is the director of a building that has exercise machines for all the students at the University of Miami, and he's a fiend about constant exercise. So he's probably the best of all of these in terms of current activities and things that are present. And his telomeres are in the range of a 5 to a 10-year-old. Somehow the next slide didn't get included in this, but we have, these were all male. And of course, females tend to live about 10 years longer than males. So I would say males are more involved. In the slide that didn't come up and is not in this is the females have been done, and they're showing similar things. So this is to let you know that if you happen to take New Eden for a health compromise, which I use the term deviation from normal health, because in the United States, in the dietary supplement health and education legislation, which is called the SHAE, in the labeling section, it points out that it is against the law to claim to treat, cure, or mitigate disease or to correct an abnormal health condition with anything but an FDA government-approved pharmaceutical drug. So we avoid using any disease or syndrome terms and just call it a deviation from normal, because good diet, reasonable exercise, and activities with other people and having a purpose in life has been found by the World Health Organization to not only add years of life, but quality of life. And with that, I hope that we will eventually have enough telomere result cases that we can publish it and show that this is a quantitative, valid biochemical assay that's objective to show the ability to something that you can do as an individual with your diet and exercise and activities that you do with your family and community, that adds not only years to your life, but quality of life. And so it's not a fountain of youth that Ponte de Leon was looking for, but things that are in the individual's freedom and liberty to do, that you can do these things that have been found that are important in the blue zones by the World Health Organization. And it's the ultimate expression of personal freedom and liberty. So with that, I will end this lecture, and I hope that that telomeres is something that you will abide by. We have
Great information. So that wraps up our study or session presentation on telomeres. Thank you so much for that, Dr. McDaniel. We've got, so you are interested in, we started this, gosh, I don't know how long we've been doing this now, at least 6 months, no more than that now. It was last summer. It's been not quite a year that we've been sharing the benefits of New Eden to with the community, and we've been using New Eden here at our house. I know I have several friends and family members that are have added New Eden to their diet. So if people are interested in joining the study here after we've been using it for a full year, we would just go to the website and submit for a kit. Is that how that works?
Yes, and there's several things. I misspoke myself. Because of our urbanized society, they've tried to figure out what type of exercise you could do minimally to be a benefit for quality of life and to support longer telomeres. And it's a mile 3 times a week at a pretty good pace rather than 3 miles, as I said in there. Just a mile 3 times a week seems to be a minimal amount. Of course, more, as you saw by the faculty member at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine, really got a benefit. He is a director of an exercise facility. And then that individual that is participating in triathlons and Ironman really got a benefit, because every week he's doing at least a mile on a bicycle and running a mile or two, and occasionally swimming, and that adds to it. I did not, for some reason, tell you why we started the telomere study, and I think it's important.
Okay.
In the year 2000, with Dr. Gilbert Cates in San Antonio, we were co-authors on a paper of 670 individuals that had been adding the aloe oligosaccharide as in the New Eden formulation to their diet. And in these 670, they had reversed objective biomarkers associated with the disabilities of aging. And these biomarkers were developed by Tufts Medical School in Boston and also Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore for the Social Security Administration, when they discovered after World War II that Social Security people were living longer and getting benefits. And actually what they were trying to get these universities to do is, we frequently say that grandpa or grandma or auntie or uncle are getting feeble. Well, what do we mean by feeble? And so they would bring these, I think they had about 10,000 people they followed over a decade. They'd bring them in once a year or so and spend the 1 to 2 days measuring various objective things that they could repeat that they call biomarkers associated with the disabilities of aging. And in this study of 670 people, they had reversed these. And very importantly, that these individuals that were over 50 gave histories that they were able to go back to mental and physical activities that they had given up due to aging 5, 10, 15 years before. They were functioning. What do we mean? They were going back to golf. They were going back to playing tennis. They were going back to bowling, square dancing. going to church on Sunday instead of watching it on TV, going on vacations where they could travel, whereas before they could not handle the times and the schedules and all. And in fact, the happiest of all of these people were couples that were older that had gotten so aged that they had given up sexual relationships. And with this improved nutrition, they returned to this very complicated physical and mental activity of sexual relations of these married couples. They were the happiest of all. And
Wow.
that's a very important measure of disabilities of aging. Also, I didn't point out that if these people have been taking this for 12 months, the New Eden or some source of acetylated mannose or Acemannan, Wellness Quest pays for the assay, which costs $200 from a laboratory in Houston. And we're even having some people contact us saying, we haven't been taking, but we want to get our baseline and we want to pay for it. And then maybe 12 months from now, if you're still doing this, you'll pay for
And
us.
you pay for it after they've been taking it for 12 months. That's a
So,
great idea.
yeah, so we're doing this. And after that paper of the 670 people reducing their biomarkers associated with disability of aging, my phone rang. And it was a dentist in Wichita, Kansas, that was 72 years old. And he's very active in medical research and all types of activities, so he's retired. And he decided to get his telomeres measured. And they, lo and behold, were in the age of 45 to about 55 years of age. I said, well, I'll do mine. And that was the first one you showed there, that though my
Okay.
birthday, I'll be 87. Biologically, even though I had a stroke in 2010, and about a year and a half ago, I had the terrible month of the China virus that I call.
Yeah.
And with this negative history, still my telomeres were in the 45, 55 age range. But whereas my brother, which was the 180, he had not had any health issues, and he had been for over a decade in the special forces training troops in Europe about various military techniques and constant shape. Then you saw those that were doing triathlons and other things that even it was better. So hopefully, as we went through the blue zones and the characteristics of the blue zones, that people listening could come up with things that they could do in their life from what you learn from these blue zones. And now we have objective measurements of telomere lengths that can be done, that more people can increase the number per thousand that live to be 100 or more. As I said before, that in Okinawa, they have more people per thousand living to in over 100 years, and they have the oldest living woman that they know of, 114 years there in the Okinawan Islands. And these people that are aged are very active in the community and with their family and friends, which they believe is another thing to add to diet and exercise, which are the two key things. And I like to emphasize that because even Hippocrates, by empiric observation, before our calendar started, I gave you his quote that it's diet and exercise that improves a safe way to improve your health. And then he added to that, and I'm still wondering just how he came up with in the pre-science area. He says, let your food be your medicine and your medicine your food. So I wanted to clear up about the walking a mile 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Whether I said, sometimes I get wound up. And
let us all off the hook there a little bit, Dr. Reg. Thanks.
a common thing. I do like to hear questions from the people that may be listening to this, because
Yeah,
easily I
JB
get
JB
distracted.
has a yeah, JB has a question. He asks, Dr. McDaniel, is any dairy safe? My research says that basically it's a gas pedal for cancer, and by research I mean podcasts. So, do you believe that dairy is safe?
Well, I get these type of questions all the time, and one of the biggest challenges to the human equation or situation is excesses. Too much dairy is not healthy. In fact, though it's good to drink a lot of water, there are well documented cases published where people drank too much water, diluted their electrolytes in their serum, and their heart stopped beating and they died from too much water. That's the thing about human beings. We're either too conservative or too liberal. We can't seem to be a balanced person, and it goes beyond philosophies and religions. It goes to activities daily. So too much dairy is not healthy. Too little dairy is not healthy, but just a moderate amount. As I say, oftentimes at the end of my lectures, we should avoid excesses in all things but love. Love
Mhm.
is the only thing we don't have too much of on this planet, and it seems to be getting worse all the time.
It definitely is. I know you were planning on joining us for the Team Mighty event, where we're going to have lots of love and hugs from our family and our community. But you are actually going to be speaking at in McKinney, Texas,
At
at
at a motel there, seem to be blocking on. It's the common.
yeah. Oh, you sent me an email about it too. I should have
Yeah,
had that pulled up.
uh,
So
it's
I'll share
20th,
that
21st,
information.
22nd in McKinney, Texas.
Hmm.
The dietary supplement company Provision, that was started by a person that I met 30 some odd years ago, that has combined the science of nutrition that was developed at the Mayo Clinic by a physician there to support the development inside the cell of glutathione and superoxide dismutase to quench or inactivate free radicals and nascent oxygen. You say nascent oxygen, what are we talking about? Oxygen is a very active molecule. And the O2 is frequently, the term is the two oxygen molecules get together and kind of bind together. But in the mitochondria, they produce oxygen, and it can react with the chromosomes, and that alters the information in that molecule. So under special electron microscopy down at Texas A&M, they can show there's a little cloud of glutathione and superoxide dismutase around the mitochondria to absorb these oxygen molecules and free radicals, to keep them from attaching to membranes and to the inside the cell, and also to the chromosomes, that can alter the information in the chromosome, which is a mutation, and this can lead to certain diseases associated with aging, as well as increase the aging process. And so this is very good. In addition, Provision has added to their formulation this technology of the Acemannan that's in each capsule, and that's there too. And people are reporting wonderful things, because our modern diet uh, is that it took me some time to really recognize the problem, because in Daniel 1 in the Old Testament, the Jews were in Babylon, and in the king there, I'm trying to think, is it Antiochus, or which, I can't remember the king's name from
I wouldn't
Babylon, but
know.
he noticed how strong and robust the young Jewish boys were, and he said, "I want you to serve in my uh, nation and in the palace, and to come eat at the king's table so you can get the finest wines and meats and foods all of uh, the country. And they said, no, all we want
Mm-hmm.
is fruits, vegetables, and water. And he says, oh, no, no, come, we want you to have the
Mm-hmm.
best. They said, we got to do a test, and it's there. And after they went on just vegetables and fruits and water, they had more strength and endurance and recovery from fatigue. And they said, okay, you can do it. So in the blue zones, one of the areas that is not an island or a peninsula isolated from the population areas was in Loma Linda, California,
Mm-hmm.
which is anything but a peninsula or island, but it is
Right.
a quote unquote island of people that are Seventh day Adventists that go by this Daniel 1 scripture of most Adventists are vegetarians minimally, and also many of them are vegans because of this biblical guidance. So you kind of got a philosophical island there at Loma Linda around Loma Linda University and Medical School. And they are the healthiest, longest living population within the United States versus all the other states. And I had heard of so called the Adventist longitudinal health study. And so when
Yeah.
lecturing there, I went to the medical school and asked for this, and they looked at me like I had three heads and said they had nothing. So I went over to the nursing school and I didn't get anything. And so finally, one of the deans sent me to the public health department. And when I asked for it, they kind of smiled. And they went over to the filing cabinet and they pulled out a 3-page bibliography that went back to the 1930s. It's a list of published studies that go back to the 1930s of Adventists, that they are the longest living, healthiest population in the United States. Well, I was a medical director for a international dietary supplement company for 10 years. And one of the most avid group in this company were Seventh-day Adventists, because all our supplements came from plants. Again, back to that Daniel 1 story I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. Well, I also had Seventh-day Adventists that would come to me, and they had strange problems of their health, and nobody could diagnose it. And some thought they had some kind of variant of multiple sclerosis or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or something metabolic disease they just couldn't diagnose. And I would look at them and say, I presume you're a vegetarian. Have you ever had any instructions or workshops or study of how to be a healthy vegetarian? And they would look at me and say, well, no, we just always in our family have done this. And I say it takes a very disciplined and knowledgeable individual to be a healthy vegetarian or healthy vegan. There are nutrient molecules that are almost impossible to find in the plant kingdom unless you're doing it every day, year after year, like eating different kinds of nuts, different kinds of berries, in addition to many of the other foods. And I would look at them and I say, do you think you're going to hell if you eat some meat? And they said, why, no, it has nothing to do with heaven or hell. It's just a thing that we do in our church. And I
Yeah.
say, well, I would like for you to at least over 2 weeks have a serving of liver, whether it's chicken liver or beef liver or some type of liver, which is loaded with multiple nutrients that are very low in the plant kingdom, and also poached salmon. And also that your salmon that is wildcat has a different profile of nutrients than salmon that are farmed and
Mm-hmm.
fed chow that has been put together, kind of like chicken feed or for
Yeah.
your animals and such. It's those that are in wild have a very different profile. Well, lo and behold, those people would, with this added to their diet, their strange disease would go away. And St. Georgie, that got the Nobel Prize for vitamin C, defined a vitamin or an essential nutrient. It's something that if you don't have it, you'll get a disease. That's how he defined vitamins, that they're a nutrient that if you don't have them, you'll get a disease. Well, lo and behold, adding liver and poached salmon to their good vegetable and fruit diet corrected this undiagnosable problem. And of course, for about a year, a decade, I was wondering, why in the world is this so important to this group of people, which their papers that go back to the 1930s, that they're the healthiest group of people in the United States. What in the world's going on? Well, it finally dawned on me, because less than a mile from our home in Mansfield, Texas, there's a Seventh-day Adventist church that I have attended some because of the good relationship with this group of people. And they have on the Sabbath, which would be the Saturday noon meal, a so-called Daniel 1 meal. And I got to looking at what they were eating, and it hit me. When I was a youngster in the 1940s, there were lots of fruits and vegetables you could only have about 4 to 6 weeks a year, because the grocery stores tended to be owned by a family locally, and they didn't have anything more than about 50 miles from their market. And it was only during the season that they could get it. What has changed? Well, we can go down to these national chain markets now, and you can have watermelon, 12 months
any
of the
time
year.
of year. Yeah. Avocados all year round. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, all kind of blackberries, 12 months of the year. What do? Well, agribusiness follows the growing zones, and listen to what I'm going to say. They pick it green so that there will be a shipping life and shelf life for commercial purposes. When you pick fruits and vegetables green, the principal molecule in them is chlorophyll. They don't start putting these critical nutrients into the produce until it begins to ripen on the plant, and the plant genes put these very necessary molecules into the food. Well, the type of food that they were getting in Babylon in Daniel 1 is totally different from the food that we have in the market that they say it's fresh fruits and vegetables. They were picked green. And in fact, frozen fruits and vegetables and other food products and fresh canned have more nutrients in them than some of these that were picked green, brought in so that they have a shipping life, and shelf life. So that's what really, when I speak of New Eden, what we're putting back into the modern diet are nutrient molecules that used to be in the family garden or orchard years ago, when now there's a parking lot or a condo or a duplex where there used to be a vacant lot when I was a kid between nearly every house. And in fact, nearly every block had 1 or 2 cows eating on the grass in the alley and on the grass on the vacant lots. There aren't any vacant lots. We've urbanized, and our food comes from different states and even different countries. It's flown in, but they have to pick it green. And this is before the plant genes put these critical molecules in it, which St. Georgie, who got the Nobel Prize for his research on vitamin C, says that a vitamin is a molecule that if it's absent, you get a disease. And what we're talking about with the modern supplementation is somewhat a extension of the vitamin story nearly everybody has heard about, that there are additional molecules that our genes call for in cellular synthesis to hook them together to make bioactive compounds that run the biochemistry and physiology of normal life. So we don't treat, cure, or mitigate disease. All we do is offer more optimal, complete nutrition by freeze drying and powdering plant matured produce to make dietary supplements. And that's why it appears to be so powerful. Of course, the power is in the coating of the DNA that I tried to give some glimpse of in this telomere action, that the code of the nucleic acids is an incredibly powerful code. And they call for these various nutrients, which is one of the things in this research that started for me in August of 1985
Wow.
that I was not aware of and hadn't recognized, that nearly everything that the genes call for proper cellular synthesis has been provided in the plant kingdom. If you eat it and regularly and allow it to the produce to mature or ripen on the plant. And this is what I say is, this started out as a middle of the road, basic conventional science and medicine with the FDA, and it's turned into a spiritual journey to realize that there is a creative, organizing, and designing power active in our existence or in our universe that put in the plant kingdom molecules that in the animal kingdom, which humans are a part of, are required for optimal health. And that's what we put into New Eden. The other thing that blew me away is that maybe other people knew it, but I did not know that the 4 nucleic acids I showed you the structure of in plants are exactly like the nucleic acids that are in human beings or the animal kingdom, and have the same exact function, but they're coded differently in their series for plants. Their order of them in the chromosomes are different for plants and animals, and but they are exactly the same, and that gives you something to think about. If you had taken the chart of all the elements, there's about 100 of them that I sometime have shown you in the lecture. There's not any evidence of life in any of those elements that are about 100 in these various lines. However, the cells can take about 70 or 80 of those and hook them together to in the plant kingdom to make compounds or nutrient molecules that are called for by the genes in human beings to have optimal health by making molecule compounds that carry on normal biochemistry and normal physiology from the normal coding that is in the genes that improves health by providing a normal, complete supply of nutrient molecules. And to do this in the modern age, dietary supplements supplement the compromises that are made in the food chain. And this is increasing not only quality of life on a daily basis for people, but we have the evidence now that it increases the activity of telomerase enzyme, which increases the length of telomeres, which is an objective laboratory measurement that I've shared with you today, that adds years to your life and quality of life at the same time.
It is incredible. You guys, you can go back and see, this is the 5th episode or presentation in the longevity series. All of Dr. McDaniel's presentations and all of the information on New Eden are on my channel under a playlist labeled wellness. So if you go to Litecoin Lisa and on YouTube and look at the playlist, hit wellness, and all of the information. We have a whole series on ingredients. We have another series on studies that were done. We have the introductory ones, and we have this series on longevity. There's some other ones that are really interesting. So check those out, get more information about New Eden, and make sure to visit the website. It's listed in the description of this video. You can, when you click on the link, go to New Eden, there's more information there. When you sign up for a subscription, you get a discount. So you make sure to get your New Eden every month so that you're taking it consistently to have the best results. And when you do, there's a little box where you can put if you are having any deviations from normal in your health, and they have different studies or reports that they might be able to share some information and some past results people have had in help. Or more information about that. So those are some other tips and information for you about
Well,
New Eden.
again, what I want to cover and think's important may not be what people listening to these lectures want to know. And let me tell you that my email is capital R, and then all less lowercase, R McDaniel, McDaniel, at Wellness Quest, WELLNESSQUST.org. And if you have questions, if it's possible to not violate the FDA restrictions, I'll respond to them because in these lectures, because I want to address what you're interested in, and I don't know what you want to know that I can respond to. If you've got, we don't use the term like, I'll give you an example, diabetes. That is a codable diagnosis, and it is to indicate anything other than a drug improves diabetes is against federal law. But you can say, I have problems with the biomarkers of high glucose in my blood. Well, that kind of tells me that I can talk to you about nutrition that is of benefit to people that have problems with their metabolism of glucose. That's a biomarker. It's not a diagnostic term. Mm-hmm. And so keep that in mind when you're talking about things.
We're used to dancing around terms on this channel, so yes. we can dance with you.
Well, let me tell you about dancing. The Dietary Supplement Law of 1994, mm-hmm. It's called the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994, has a preamble. And in the preamble, in the first paragraph, I paraphrase what the first sentences are. It says, essentially, science and medicine has determined that optimal nutrition is essential for good health, to prevent disease, and to restore health. Right quickly, you might say, well, what more would you want?
Right.
That's a statement of truth that has been found for generations. Well, I can tell you what you'd want. You'd want it to be in the law and not the preamble, because the preamble is just a statement of why hearings in this legislation was addressed and passed. It is not the law. In the labeling section of the law, and I paraphrase again, it states that only an FDA approved pharmaceutical drug can represent our claim to treat, cure, or mitigate a disease, syndrome, or correct an abnormal health condition. So we don't want, and we'll try to always avoid violating the federal law, because the FDA vociferously enforces that. And all we do is provide optimal nutrition to support normal genetic gene control, normal cellular synthesis of normal bioactive compounds that support normal biochemistry and normal physiology. We do not treat, cure, mitigate disease or abnormal condition.
So Gloria is asking a question.
I've taken 3 times a day, And am I right in doing so? Yes. And we have the dermatomyositis is in the group of autoimmune diseases. Your body is making a autoantibody due to some experience your immune system had against the skin and muscle. And this was a problem we first faced way back in the 1980s. We were trying to develop a new drug from the active ingredient from aloe, which had restored the health of 7 AIDS patients. And the research was they raised $20 million to try to find and isolate and make a drug from whatever active ingredient that would be found in aloe leaf gel. Well, they had 12 academic institutions doing research that the FDA required. And my job as a physician, they begged me eventually. I said I wasn't qualified to work with them, but at least I had a medical education. And they said the FDA is requesting things, and we're getting reports that are in scientific and medical jargon that we don't understand. There's a lot of Latin and Greek in it. And someone that has a medical education can probably help us understand what they're asking for and what we're getting as a result. So that's what I was trying to do. Well, these academic institutions found out that this active ingredient in the aloe plant supports the cellular synthesis of a compound that's made in the endoplasmic reticulum of 9 molecules of the acetylated mannose or acemannan, and it boosts the body's resistance against any type of infection. In fact, all the viruses they tried it against, including animal viruses I'd never heard of, it prevented infection of the individual or tissue culture. If the infection were already introduced and going, it stopped it immediately. And in proper immunoperoxidase stains, you were able to show that the viral proteins were rapidly eliminated from the cells when you had acemannan on board. We thought we had the most incredible immune stimulating molecule found in nature, and that's kind of our mindset. And then we started hearing from people with asthma, autoimmune diseases like this dermatomyositis. We're talking about the most common one we had is hypothyroidism due to a autoantibody against the thyroid epithelium or the thyroxine. And these people had hypothyroid, and by taking this molecule from the aloe plant, this problem would go away because it was normal nutrition. Well, this was confusing. We thought that, and this is important, that this did not poison the biochemistry of the viruses or the bacteria or the fungus or the tuberculosis organism or the malaria parasite. It didn't poison them. What it did, it boosted the body's defense against it. Therefore, even organisms that are drug resistant were not drug resistant to this. So as I say, we thought we had the most perfect, wonderful anti-infectious agent that stimulated the body's immune system. And here we're having these people that have an overactive, inappropriate immune system. So I attended a conference in Europe that was just based on this biochemistry of turning on the body's defense and turning it off. And lo and behold, a very easy to understand thing that I didn't understand beforehand is it takes nutrients to make the bioactive molecules to turn on the body's host defense against all infections, but it takes nutrient molecules to make the bioactive compounds to take it back to rest or normal watchful rating, to turn it back down. It's kind of like thermostat on your wall in the house or like climate control in your car, which is based on comfort, that if it gets too hot, the air conditioning turns on. It gets too cold, the heater turns on. Well, in the body, it's not the heat, it's the normal zone. And this normal zone has been long recognized long ago by the so-called father of human physiology named Dr. Hans Selye. He called this area of balance, not too much, not too little, that in this zone that the genes can try to move to if you have the proper nutrition. He called it homeostasis. So what we do is this normal zone of homeostasis we provide in the freeze-dried, plant-matured plant substances, these molecules that were once in the family garden and orchard when we went out. You didn't pick a tomato a week or two before it
Right.
was green hard as a rock and put it on the shelf in the kitchen. No, you let it ripen on the plant because it tasted so much better. Well, what you can taste in a vine ripened tomato versus one picked green shipped in like a green rock and allowed to turn red happens over and over again in our food supply, but you can't detect it as readily as you can as vine ripened tomatoes. Just the thought of them, they're succulent, great
My
taste.
dad always talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, versus
Mhm.
those that were picked green before the nutrient molecules that makes them taste good
Mhm.
are put in. So I hope this uh, additional conversation adds to this thing we've been talking about, longevity, and the World Health Organization recognizing blue zones and what are the characteristics of the people that live in these blue zones and how possibly you can adapt to your own life some of these features
Mhm.
of the blue zones are the individuals that are living up to their 90 and 100 plus and have good health. And I've tried to go into some more, I hope, understandable, because I've been faced ever since 1985 trying to talk to lay people that haven't had any science education. And the terminology in science and medicine tends to be Greek and Latin, many terms. I try to get it to something that people can understand because I grew up on a cotton farm down in Abbott, Texas, and we raised corn, maize, and cotton. And I know where most people come from, and that's where I came from. And I'm trying to bridge that comprehension because everybody on earth can benefit from more comprehensive nutrition that unfortunately in our urbanized society can only be found by adding to your general diet dietary supplementation like we have now 36 years in trying to perfect the ingredients that are in New Eden, which now we have evidence lengthens your telomeres, which this lecture was based on today.
Yeah, and New Eden makes it so easy to do. So you guys, once again, check out the link in the description of this video, or you can go to likecoinlisa.net and you'll find a link there as well. Thank you so much once again, Dr. McDaniel. We'll have you back again soon. You guys let me know if you have any other questions for Dr. McDaniel for next time. Take care.